Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Modern Spiritualist. My name is Raheem. I want to talk to you about a new class that I will be starting after the holidays. I will announce specific dates later on. I want to see how much interest I get first. So if you are interested after hearing this video, please reach out to me so that I can start to work some specific dates. It will run for 8 weeks with classes once a week. They are on Zoom, so you can attend them wherever in the world you are. There will be live classes, but you can also choose to watch them on your own time. All classes will be recorded, so if you're interested and dates and times don't line up with your schedule, do not hesitate to sign up anyway. The class is called Energy Body Mastery, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how this class will benefit your manifestation process. If you've ever taken my manifestation program, you know that I spend a lot of that time talking about limiting beliefs, namely identifying how these limiting beliefs are manifesting in your life, where they live in your body, and dismantling them in order to get rid of that roadblock in your life. Energy Body Mastery is a key pathway for clearing these limiting beliefs because it puts us in a position of energetic sovereignty, clarity, and integrity. And as a result, identifying and dismantling limiting beliefs in our manifestation practice becomes faster, accurate, and more effective. So there are 3 things that I want to talk to you about today in relation to how Energy Body Mastery can improve or even completely transform your manifestation practice. And they are the following 3 things. So the first thing we're going to talk about is connecting with your inner child and reclaiming their gifts. The second thing is understanding the mind, the ego, survival, and limiting beliefs, how that all plays out in your manifestation process. And then the third and final thing will be alchemy, ego death, and the re-assimilation of the personality. So the first thing, connecting with your inner child and reclaiming their gifts. I'm going to begin with the inner child conversation, and you know we have to have this conversation if you've been in any effective healing modality for any length of time, and there's a reason why. So the first point I want to make here is that self-actualization is an inside job that matters when we're talking about our inner child because we are the one responsible for showing up for that inner child. So the reason why most manifestation coaches preach going after your limiting beliefs, inside your own mind to actually manifest your outside experience is for this very reason. And I'll repeat it, self-actualization is an inside job. Okay. So why does it matter when we're talking about our inner child? Because our inner child is the manifester. Our inner child is the creator. It is our connection to curiosity and adventure and exploration, intimacy with the unknown, the willingness to take risks, and all of the other qualities that we need to tap into in order to successfully manifest, which is inherently a creative process, right? So it matters because as an adult in your world, the only one truly responsible for how your inner child feels is you. And the degree to which you repress or oppress that inner child is parallel to the degree to which you repress and oppress the manifestations that are attempting to flow through you. Next point I want to make about the inner child, the only way out is through the work, right? So there is a reason why connecting with the inner child is a crucial part of Energy Body Mastery and most other effective healing modalities. And that is because the only way to truly heal is to reconnect with and reconcile who in us became traumatized or fragmented in childhood. Childhood is really scary. We are completely dependent on our caretakers for survival, and in childhood, our primary concern is that survival. So we are willing to do a lot of stuff with a heavy dose of weird childhood logic, right, to maintain feelings of safety, whether they're actually effective for our survival or not. And these strategies become coping mechanisms that can stick with us through childhood if we don't address them. And these coping mechanisms often become problems themselves. And here's the crucial thing about those traumatized and marginalized parts of ourselves. Every single one of them, contain parts of us that we need to be here and do what we came here to do. They have important gifts that contain information about who we are, what we're here to do, what we want, what we need, and how to do all of those things. So we just stop being able to access those gifts because they are bound up in the trauma. And if that trauma extends far enough back in childhood, we forget they exist. We become identified with the dysfunctional coping mechanism instead. So when we use modalities that effectively connect us with our inner child, we relearn the names of those gifts. And through awareness, we as the adults in our world, right, are able to give that part of our inner child what they would have needed, not only to survive, but thrive. And through this process of going backwards in time, we're actually now able to move forwards again whereas before we might have been stuck in place. In Energy Body Mastery, we learn a highly effective protocol for healing the inner child. However, what we learn in that class, all the hard-skilled, witchy, shamanic, intuitive, psychic, sexy protocol aside, right? The true magic of healing the inner child lives in 4 important soft skills, and I'm going to tell you about them right now for free, and you can practice healing your inner child starting today, right? The hard-skilled skills, you got to take the class. But the soft skills. Healing the inner child is only achieved through, number 1, awareness, number 2, curiosity, number 3, compassion, number 4, self-love. Okay, so let's talk about awareness. Awareness is key because you can't avoid the manifested problems of the inner child by pushing it out of your awareness and focusing on your coping mechanisms, right? Your life is still going to keep manifesting your problems in your face. So this usually just leads to health problems over time, and you can only shift a problem if you know the problem is there. So Energy Body Mastery can help you hone your intuitive perceptions and accuracy so that you can become aware of potential problems in your energy field before they manifest bigger problems. Number 2, curiosity. Curiosity is key because you can't show up and act like you know better than the inner child. Children are their feelings, and your inner child knows exactly how they are feeling and why. So you, as the adult in your world, are the one showing up in your humility to witness the predicament of the wounded inner child. And things only shift when curiosity opens us up to a new way of looking at things, right? The perspective of the inner child that was marginalized and not allowed to give perspective. Number 3, compassion. Compassion is key because you can't want the inner child to get better just so that you can move on with your life and feel better. You have to love the inner child for exactly who they are, wounds and all. You can't make the inner child feel better so that you can get out of pain. You have to show up and witness the pain they are experiencing so that you can completely let it go. Emotions only leave when they flow out. So in that flow, there's a presence and awareness and acceptance. And the moment you accept the emotions, they start to run their course. And eventually it's just like a wave moving back into the ocean, right? That's how emotions are supposed to operate unless we keep spinning in them, like keep cycling through, capturing them and not letting them go, or we completely ignore them so the wave doesn't ever get to pass through. It just becomes this compact thing inside of us that doesn't get to move, right? And so compassion is all about moving that emotion, letting it flow out so that you can actually let it go and step into something new, a better way of being, a more natural way of being, or a happier way of being. So compassion is key because it allows someone to be witnessed as they are without fear of blame, shame, and judgment. And we ultimately want our inner child to feel safety in our own heart and mind. That's the point, right? Number 4, self-love is key because this is, from my opinion, this comes out of my shamanic cosmology. You don't have to believe this if you don't want to, but if you do believe in this, it will start to confirm its bias for you, which is something that you might want. So self-love, from my system, self-love is key because love is the very fabric of the universe. It is the first cause and the last effect. When the last illusion, right, the illusion of reality ends, all that is left is the vibration of love. That's all that's truly real. Everything else will go. And so self-love is the divine alchemy. The only real substance that can turn pain into pure gold is love. And no one can teach you that one. You just got to do it yourself, which is simply about being courageous enough to do it. And self-love encompasses all of the other points: awareness, curiosity, and compassion. And self-love is a process. You have to continually choose to show up and do it and learn how to do it better over time, right? Moving on to the second thing I want to talk about today: the mind, the ego, survival, and limiting beliefs. So first of all, you have 100% power to claim your whole self in the present moment, anytime, anywhere. And I believe that there are times where people feel that whole self, no matter what stage they are in their life process. I think my earliest experiences of that were at concerts. Ever since I was, a kid or a teenager, I'd have these moments where music would wash over me and render me sort of egoless. And I'd feel a sense of oneness with the music and the players and the audience all at once. There was this moment of transcendence, and I could count on it happening in that space. And so I think that's a good example that you might be able to attribute to a place in your own life where you feel that sort of flow and that freedom, whatever it is. And you always have access to your holistic self, even with all of the soul loss or shadow or ancestral trauma going on. I see the energy body, because it's all one, right? So I see the energy body as a kind of circuit board, right? Your energy body is a circuit board of energy. And there are different moving parts to the circuit board, just like the organs of the body have different tasks. And when something in us gets scared, it clamps down and turns off. That part of the circuit board just turns off, like when you have an electric malfunction in your house and half of your kitchen wall turns off or something, right? It's not functioning anymore. And so that manifests in us as a traumatic response. But with breath and presence of mind, which is practiced over time, we can always bring ourselves back, turn our circuit board back on, connect with the highest source, and feel ourselves at our wholeness again. The wounding is still there because, as I said, it's a wholeness, right? It's infinite. But then comes a deep sense of joy of being that renders the wounding very, very small in comparison to that bigness and that beauty and that beneficence. And then we get very, very big and powerful as a result of coming into that wholeness. So it's really like a zooming out, like a camera lens, because the wounding is small in comparison to that bigness of our whole self. And so to that effect, on the flip side, if we're talking about that wounding, anxiety, unhappiness, compulsion, and addiction equal manifestations of the soul's desire to be free from ego-induced limitation. So many of our coping mechanisms manifest in the following 4 forms: anxiety, unhappiness, compulsion, and addiction. Now, these mechanisms could actually just be any of those 4 things. An example, if we experience anxiety for long enough, we start to believe that we are our anxiety. Let's say anxiety symptoms started cropping up when we were 5 or 6. Let's say nobody told us that anxiety was what it was, so we just thought that was reality. We didn't realize we had a thing going on, right? And then that anxiety keeps getting worse because it's not being dealt with or not being noticed or being perceived as normal. And then eventually you reach adulthood, you've been with that anxiety for longer than you've been without it now, right? If you got it when you were 6, let's say you're 26. And so now, because we derive a sense of self from the energy of anxiety, we actually get addicted to it, and we get addicted to how we manifest anxiety in our lives because we think it's us, we're identified. An example of creating more anxiety would be spending more time on social media than we do off social media, which has been scientifically demonstrated to cause anxiety and dysregulation in large quantities. So in this instance, we are addicted to social media and the anxiety it creates, right? But that baseline is addicted to anxiety and how to create more of it, right? So that we can feel a sense of self from that. If you remember what I said just a little bit ago about how our coping mechanisms contain gifts, we can reframe how any of these coping mechanisms show up in our lives as a gift that is trying to make itself manifest. Therefore, all we have to do, and we do this protocol in the class, is address what the anxiety truly wants to be. So when we use this protocol in Energy Body Mastery, we might discover that our anxiety's real name is creativity, and what they really want to do is draw every day, just like we did when we were a kid. When we successfully reclaim this gift of artistic drawing, we do 2 things. We liberate ourselves from the anxiety that was manifesting, and we reclaim our gift of creativity. So Energy Body Mastery flips the whole script for mental health, because instead of viewing ourselves as a set of neuroses, we can view our neuroses as a conversation with our own soul, as a way that the soul points out to us what is wounded, so that we can give it our full loving attention and reclaim the gifts that were lost. The next part to this is just getting out of your own way, because your soul already knows what to do. Ultimately, moving away from ego-induced limitation is about getting out of your own way. In order to be your authentic self, there's a letting go of trying to be everything that you already are, right? So you possess beautiful, innate qualities and talents, we all do. And the more powerful the enemy in us, the more powerful the ally once we let go of our ego sense of self and embrace the bigness that is our soul. The moment we are motivated to stop making an enemy out of ourselves, we make the most natural allies with ourselves, because that's what we're meant to be. And so by choosing our authentic selves and choosing to step out of ego, we surrender to a flow. And this flow is how the soul moves naturally through the world. So while not without challenge, like this process isn't without challenge, but it's not any more challenging than any of the ways you're already, shooting yourself in the foot, right? Because let's face it, being in the world is hard right now. And this flow is an effortless knowing. And so the manifestation process is much more about setting the intention, taking a step back, surrendering, and letting the flow take hold so it can carry you to your destiny, because it's there for you. And if you want to understand more about this concept, you can take a look at the Tao Te Ching. It talks about the concept of Wu Wei, which is effortless action. And it's all about the surrender to this flow of the soul and taking action from that place, which is about getting out of the way and into the flow. So our job as the ego-identified personality, right? Like my job as ego-identified Rahim is just to stop damming up the river, to remove everything in the way, all the false ego identifications that prevent one from viewing oneself in the context of the whole, so that one can successfully be a current in that flow. So the next point I want to talk about today, alchemy, ego death, and the reassimilation of the personality. First, I have to talk about the natural grieving process of the old self. So when we go through an alchemical process, right, transforming from one thing to another, there is, once you reach the other side of that, I mean, you become the person that you're meant to be or that you want to be. You're filled with a sense of joy, of peace, and, all those things are true. And still, there's this natural grieving process of the old self, no matter how much it may have been inauthentic to you, or it may have been a source of pain for you, or it may have been ineffective in the world, whatever, that like old shell that you get to shrug off in this process as you become a bigger, more powerful you. You still have to grieve who you were, because on a soul level, your soul loves all of it. They love all of you. They love every manifestation of you. And so there's always a grieving, and there's a need to surrender to that grieving in order to complete the alchemical process. So no matter how badly you think you want to change your life, the bottom line is there is always a grieving process when you change your life, no matter how positive that change is. And I think when people are starting to make strides in their healing, they can sense that grieving process, so they get scared and confused and back out and go back into their small selves, and they stay there. This is understandable because our culture does not hold us well in our grief, and our culture also doesn't understand that grief is a bigger processing than just losing a loved one, losing a relationship, moving house, stepping into a new phase of life, stepping into a new you, losing a job. All of these things are a grieving process. And so with the COVID pandemic, right, we're in a global state of grief, and you can see from that perspective of collective grieving that people are not handling it well at all. It's just business as usual, and then people get even more unsettled and even more weird things happen. But the grieving process for this kind of alchemical process, when you're fundamentally changing your perception of who you are, and you're completely shifting how you operate in the world, and you're manifesting all these new opportunities to you, it's really not so bad if you lean into it. It can be confusing because you're processing fear, anger, sadness, and adjusting to unknowns, right? Even though you want these positive changes. And I think people just expect everything to feel better, so they get confused when they don't feel better right away. But grieving the old self eventually ends. And after you process all of the repressed emotions from the old self, these emotions run their course, and then you are a new you in a new place, and it does feel amazing. So you just get through it, Next thing I want to talk about, manifestation, and how it relates to energy body mastery. Energy body mastery is really embodiment focused, and that's really, really key, because manifesting things on earth means manifesting them in the tangible, right? You want to see, feel, hear results of what you're manifesting. And so that's what brings body integration into the equation. You must be the physical object of your desire, and you can write that down for a manifestation hint whenever you need it. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean changing your appearance or your body in any way. You must be the physical object of your desire. I mean, it certainly can mean that if that's what you're choosing to manifest. So this applies if you want to lose weight or get in shape, or even do something like gender transitioning, which is a divine alchemy of the body, right? Gender transitioning is becoming the true self through that transformational process in the physical. It could also be even simpler than that. You could be imagining yourself as a person with a better sense of style, and you're manifesting better clothes and better intuition for how clothing fits together. That counts too. But if the object of your desire isn't anything about your body or appearance, there is still a way to become the object of your desire. I have a great example for manifesting the ideal relationship. Let's say that you want your ideal boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm going to use my best friend's manifestation method as an example for this. So he told me last year that in order to manifest the relationship that he wanted, his manifestation practice would be to become his own ideal boyfriend, to date himself. He was going to become the person that he would want to date. And this is a perfect example of actually becoming the object of your desire, which is the ideal boyfriend in this case. So I tried it too, and it worked. I became my own perfect boyfriend, fell in love with myself. And we've discussed already how the self-love part of alchemy is essential. And then I actually manifested the partner that I have now. So it was a huge success, and it was easy once I did the work of becoming the object of my desire. So the process of becoming my ideal partner solved two things for me once I actually started putting my energy into a real relationship with another person. So number one, I knew exactly what I required from a partner because I had to learn to give those things to myself. And number two, I knew how to be a good partner for somebody else because I learned how to be a good partner to myself. And so once I actually manifested my partner, I was the ideal candidate for that relationship as well. I was ready to be in it. I was the person that could be in it. And that's essential for manifesting what we want. So you have to ask yourself, are we able to maintain our desire once we have it? And do we even recognize the manifestation of our desire once it presents itself to us? So as we're trying to manifest something in our lives and we end up getting caught up, it's like, okay, well, did you really not manifest it? Or did you not see it for what it was and miss the opportunity when it came? Or are you just not the person that is ready to be in this? And that's the only block. And so when trying to manifest something external, like I want a boyfriend or a girlfriend or, a partner, think, okay, I want that. The first step is becoming the person that can be that, right? So you should be manifesting initially, I want to be the right person for the right partner, right? And then from there you can manifest the partner. And that's a perfect example of becoming the object of your desire. Last point, you are the god / goddess / non-binary lord, whatever, of your personal microcosm. So are you a good one? If we view for these purposes that reality is infinite, but that we as humans can observe some finite structures in nature with our set of sensory perceptions as humans, we can notice that there are patterns in nature, that this table in front of me is a table and it starts and ends, right? And these patterns seem to repeat on micro and macro scales. So for instance, the neuronal network looks ridiculously similar to the cosmic web. And we understand using instruments that there are smaller structures we can't see. For example, atoms are too small for us to see, but they are the building blocks of matter forming everything that we can see. They are structure on which everything is built, right? And so if you zoom out of your network, you see we're just a very small part of the solar system's network. We are to the solar system what gut bacteria is to our bodies, right? And so from this perspective, we can view us as sentient beings to be the god of our energy fields, our microcosm, everything in my body, in my energy field, right? Everything that exists inside of me as the individual is my microcosm. We are, on the scale of our planet, energy beings with free will that clash with other energy beings that have free will, and we cannot mess with someone else's free will. We are not their god, but we are the god of ourselves, and the way we treat ourselves is the way we are enacting forces on everything inside of ourselves, and all of that ripples outward, right? Enacts forces on a global scale, so and beyond. So take a look at how you treat yourself. Do you treat yourself with respect, love, acceptance, vulnerability, intimacy, or do you treat yourself with hate, shame, guilt, blame, pity, etc.? The miracle of this work is that once you realize what you're doing to yourself, you can make the choice to stop of your own free will and volition, and you can do it anytime. You are the god of your microcosm. So, but old habits die hard, which is why I'm bringing Energy Body Mastery to you so that you can learn skills that will make this work a whole lot easier. I did not create this protocol. This came from Last Mass Center of Shamanic Studies. I have spent the last year in teacher training with my shamanic community to be able to bring this here and teach it. These teachings are held in a powerful, loving, and deep cosmology that is a lot bigger than me. So for that reason, when you learn these teachings from me, you're actually being held by something even greater and more loving than you can even fathom. You are being held by an almost tangible thread of spiritual protection, love, and wisdom. So please reach out to me if you're interested in the class. Thank you so much for listening, and take the time to consider if this serious learning of energy skills is right for you. Because I am a teacher in training for this course currently, the entire 8 weeks is only being offered for $75 total. This is the only opportunity to take the class at this low of a price, so please take action now. Email me, direct message me on any social media platform. I am very responsive to those. And so if you want to get on basically the waiting list for this after the holidays, if you want to sign up for the class, reach out to me now, because the price is going to quadruple after these 8 weeks. So please take action now and start manifesting who you truly are. Thank you guys. Bye.